His Boxing Show.
And again, I keep talking about the networks. Boxing needed this for a long, long time.
Yeah.
A long, long time. And kudos to PBC.
Does any fighter have an excuse after May 2nd? Mayweather-Pacquiao?
No.
Will there be any excuses after May 2nd for either fighter, for Mayweather or for your fighter?
There shouldn't be. I mean, the best man will win, and we'll go from there.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, yesterday I received a link from my man King Youssef, shouts out to him, of an interview that Paulie Malignaggi did with my man Nestor from the Boxing Voice. Shouts out to the Boxing Voice, great channel. This was one of the most epic, one of the most realest, whole truth type of interviews that I had seen in quite some time. Great interview. Paulie Malignaggi is definitely the truth. Okay? Now, of course, when I listened to this interview, a lot of the stuff was an echo of the majority of stuff you guys already heard me say, but he took it to another level. He definitely took it to another level, you know, talked about some other stuff that I didn't know. He informed me on quite a few things in this interview. So check out that interview. It's on the Boxing Voices channel. Matter of fact, later on I'll put the link in the description box. But I want to talk about some of the things that he said, some of the nails that he hit right on the head. Of course, he starts to talk about his frustration for the excuses that Manny Pacquiao is making when it comes to this fight. Now, Paulie Malignaggi, because this is a man who's had a lot of injuries, who's fought a lot of fights one-handed, okay? He basically said he was sick of this man, Manny Pacquiao, when it comes to the excuses, all the way from Manny Pacquiao turning down the most lucrative fight of our generation, 5 years ago, when it was a 50-50 split, right? Because he said he was afraid of needles. He didn't want to take the Olympic-style random drug test. Then later on, he came back to the table and he says, okay, I'll do it, but I want a 21 cutoff day, meaning Manny Pacquiao said the only way I would take this fight is if testing stops 21 days before the fight. When Team Mayweather, of course, said, that sounds ridiculous. We're not doing that. Then Manny finally brought it down to 14 days. But he did not go beyond 14 days. Once again, this is a man who said he was afraid of needles. You know, he said, you know, he's superstitious about people taking his blood and all this other stuff. Then all of a sudden he loses, gets knocked out by Marquez. And he's claiming if he fights Marquez a fifth time, he wants Marquez to be tested. So we know the first time Mayweather and Pacquiao negotiated, we know for a fact that it was all, and when I say all, I mean it was all Manny Pacquiao's fault that the fight didn't happen. Oh, and don't take my word. If you don't believe me, then let's hear what Freddie Roach has to say.
What do you think then that in the fullness of time, when people look back in history, they will see that Pacquiao is the man that Mayweather didn't fight, rather than Pacquiao didn't get the Mayweather?
I don't think it'll come across that way. I think people will say, why didn't they fight each other? And blame both guys, to be honest with you, because the first negotiation we were against the blood test, and it was kind of our fault. The first time it didn't work, and then we came to a point where we accepted that later on.
Nothing but the whole truth. Now, there was something else that Paulie said in this interview that I could not believe. I mean, it was shocking what he said. Paulie said that HBO didn't want him to call the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight because he's biased. Can you believe the nerve of Jim Lampley and HBO? Because we already know this came from Jim Lampley. He's the one that's going to be calling the fight. He's used to dictating everything. He's used to everyone basically looking up to him, like Max Kellerman does. So the fact that he can't really control the ebb and flow of how the fight is being called, he doesn't want to sit next to a guy who's going to expose Manny Pacquiao for all of his flaws. As if Jim Lampley doesn't know what the job description of a color analyst is. Paulie Malignaggi and Roy Jones, their job is to give the boxing fans a fighter's perspective of how the fight is playing out. What Pacquiao is doing right, what he's doing wrong. What Floyd Mayweather is doing right, what he's doing wrong. Etc., 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 right? That is their job. They've been in the ring. They've dealt with injuries while they were in the ring. But for Jim Lampley and HBO to call somebody biased, oh man, that takes the cake. That takes the cake right there. You're talking about Jim Lampley, a man who goes on his show, which is supposed to be a boxing show, and he dedicates his show to bashing Floyd Mayweather and all the other fighters that are on the coincidental list, like Guillermo Rigo, Andre Ward, Tim Bradley, right? He bashes all of these fighters, but when it comes to Floyd Mayweather in particular, he took it to a whole nother level. On the Mayweather-Pacquiao At Last episode, he called Mayweather a son of a bitch. Before that, he called Floyd Mayweather distasteful, and he said he could not wait for this man to be out of the sport. And that's just a piece of what Jim Lampley has said about Floyd Mayweather. So Jim says all of this stuff about Floyd Mayweather, and then he turns around and he calls Mayweather fights. But then he wants to say that someone else is biased. Floyd Mayweather has a great win over Marcos Maidana in a rematch. Jim Lampley gets on his show and all he talks about is Floyd Mayweather's personal life and how he wants this man to retire. Right? But Sergey Kovalev, he comes out of the closet as a straight racist, one of HBO's biggest stars right now. And Jim Lampley never goes on his show telling people that he wants Kovalev out of the sport. How distasteful Kovalev is, right? Unbelievable. These people have the nerve to call Paulie Malignaggi biased. As racist and biased as Jim Lampley is. Are you serious? Listen, Paulie Malignaggi and myself, everything that we have been saying leading up to this fight has come to fruition. You can't call it bias. You cannot call a forecast bias. If I tell you that it's going to rain on Friday and it actually rains on Friday, you can't come back to me be pissed off. Oh yeah, you just love the rain with your loving rain ass. Right? You're biased. You love the rain over sunshine, don't you? Listen, man, I told you it was going to rain and it rained. What else you want from me? I gave you breakdown after breakdown telling you why Floyd Mayweather would beat Manny Pacquiao, exposing Manny Pacquiao's flaws. And Paulie Malignaggi, he did it even more. He broke it down even better. Everything that Paulie Malignaggi said before this fight, we seen it on May 2nd. So how is that bias? And this is what Paulie Malignaggi is saying in the interview. How are you going to call it bias? I told you guys exactly what was going to happen. How is that bias? Paulie Malignaggi has received awards for his boxing commentary. Okay? We all know that Paulie Malignaggi is possibly the best commentator out there right now. There is no reason Paulie should not have been on this card calling this fight. Because one thing about Paulie is he teaches you about boxing when he's calling the fights. I mean, he's breaking it down in such an in-depth way. You're learning things when you're hearing him call the fight. Especially people like myself, because I train my kids. I've been training them since they were out of diapers. My youngest son is a 2-time national champion, 4-time state champion. So when I hear Paulie Malignaggi call fights, it is very educational and informative. So there was no reason for Paulie Malignaggi not to be calling this fight. Paulie talked a lot about the shoulder injury. A lot of people don't believe Manny Pacquiao's shoulder injury had anything to do with his loss. Paulie, he hammered the fact that Manny Pacquiao, he continued to throw the right hand over and over and over again. Because Team Pacquiao, they're now claiming that the doctor said it was a severe tear. A severe tear, that takes it to a whole nother level. And this is what Paulie Malignaggi was saying. If you have a severe tear, that means you can't even raise your arm, let alone throw right hands for 12 whole rounds. And keep in mind, this is something else Paulie said, which I totally agree with. When you're throwing that right hand, especially when you're missing the target, that hurts even more when you have an injury. How many times have we watched a fight where you've seen a guy all of a sudden wince in pain out of nowhere in the middle of a round, just wince in pain, right? We've seen a ton of fighters do this. This is the thing that you guys really need to pay attention to and think about. If Manny Pacquiao was throwing his right hand the whole night, then the right hand injury or the right shoulder injury was not a factor. How many real injuries that you've seen where a guy doesn't even use that hand anymore? We've seen this so many times, right? When Floyd Mayweather was injured in the Carlos Hernandez fight, he pretty much fought the entire fight with one hand. Matter of fact, he would even switch to southpaw so he can continue using that one hand. You know, Paulie Malignaggi, he said this was a spit in the face of other fighters that have had injuries. Mayweather said, I really don't want to say anything bad about Manny, but this man leaves me no choice. Manny Pacquiao is really making himself look bad right now. He is playing the role of the villain. And the sad thing is, this may not even be a role that he's playing. You feel me? I mean, if you just really look at the whole situation, go all the way back to 2008. Like I just said earlier, he didn't want to take the drug test. He wanted a cutoff date. He said he was afraid of needles. He said he was superstitious about it. Now, all of a sudden, he's no longer afraid of needles. He's now taking the test, right? Now, the week of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, you had the traditional arrivals at the MGM Grand. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, it has been a tradition for quite some time to help promote the fight. Both fighters, they arrive at the MGM Grand, so the fans can have an opportunity of seeing both of these guys pretty much at the same time in the same building. Team Pacquiao decides to pull a move that looked very selfish and, in the words of Mayweather, unprofessional. It wasn't a good look for Manny Pacquiao. Then you fast forward to after the fight. Manny Pacquiao gets dominated. He misses 81% of his punches. 81% of his punches he missed, right? He loses at least 9 rounds to 3. He was dominated in the fight. Now Manny Pacquiao has his post-fight interview. Max Kellerman's first question, what's your impressions on the fight? I thought I won the fight. Max Kellerman, you thought you won the fight? Yeah, he did nothing. He just moved around. He just moved. He moved, you know. And you know, this was funny. I noticed this. I pick up on little things like this. Manny was about to say he ran, but at the last minute, he just said he moved around. That's all he do is move around. He changed it because the last time, Manny said to Max Kellerman on the face-off, when I think he was fighting Bradley, you know, he was accusing Bradley of running. Max Kellerman exposed him and he said, well, weren't you running in the Brandon Rios fight? So then Manny Pacquiao, he was forced to try to, you know, retract what he said. And then he started calling, he said something silly like, you know, in the Philippines, you know, we call boxing running in the Philippines. You know, he said some real silly shit like that. So because Manny Pacquiao was forced to contradict himself, he made sure he didn't call it running this time. He tried to just call it moving around. Now, this is once again where Paulie Malignaggi pretty much says the exact same thing that I've been saying about Manny Pacquiao's response to losing. First, Manny Pacquiao, he tries to pull the I thought I won card, hoping that Max Kellerman would ride with him and say, oh yeah, me and Jim Lampley, we thought you won too, champ. But that didn't work. That backfired on Manny Pacquiao. Now, once again, keep in mind, before I say what I'm about to say next, Mayweather, he did his interview right before Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao got to hear everything that Mayweather said. And everything Mayweather said was respectful towards Manny Pacquiao. He praised Manny Pacquiao over and over, talking about how good of a fighter he is, and he's awkward, and I wanted to do more, but because, you know, he's such an awkward fighter, you know, I had to really watch him. This is what Mayweather is saying about Manny Pacquiao. So back to Manny's interview. Like I said before, first Manny says, I thought I won the fight. That didn't work. Then he says, all Floyd Mayweather did was move around the ring, move. Then he says this, and I swear I'm not making this up. You guys go back and watch it for yourself. He said, if Floyd Mayweather would have stood right in front of me, I could have landed more punches. This man is talking like he has never been in a boxing match before. If he stands right in front of me. That's like saying if Floyd Mayweather would have put his hands down, I would have landed a whole lot more shots. This ain't a video game, Manny, where you could put it on easy mode before you play. No, man. You playing on very, very hard mode. And you have to figure out how to beat the game. Ain't nobody about to help you out on the other side. They ain't feeling sorry for you because you losing damn near every round. What you think, Floyd gonna be like, damn, Dad, I feel sorry for him over there. Look at him. He looking all discouraged and depressed, frustrated. You think I should make it a little easier for him, Dad? I mean, what does Manny Pacquiao think this is? So anyway, I'm rambling off. I want to get back to the summary of the post-fight interview. Now, pay close attention to everything that Manny Pacquiao says. I'm going to go over it one more time. First, he says, I thought I won the fight. Then he says, Mayweather, all he did was move around the ring. If he would have stood in front of me, I could have did better. This is pretty much what he says, right? Notice, in that whole post-fight interview, never did Manny Pacquiao ever mention any injuries, right? He never mentioned any injuries. All he said was he thought he won the fight. And Floyd moved too much. Now we go to the post-fight interview in the press conference room. where reporters are asking Manny Pacquiao the same questions, but they're digging even deeper than Max Kellerman did. A reporter says, "Why did you think you won the fight, Manny?" And this is funny, because then when this reporter asked Manny this question, Manny turns over and he looks at Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach, he whispers, you know, Freddie is coaching. He's still coaching him, right? He's even coaching him on his answers, because Manny Pacquiao doesn't know what to say. He can't accept that he lost. So Freddie whispers something to him, and then Manny says, "Oh, yeah, I thought I won the fight because I hurt him," right? Reporter says, "How many times do you think you hurt him?" Manny says like 3 or 4 times. Reporter is saying, "You thought that was enough to win the whole fight?" This is when Manny Pacquiao finally just broke down and came up with a new excuse. This is when he just finally said, "Forget it. I was injured. I was injured, blah, blah this, blah, blah that," right? So the question is, why did it take him this long to even bring up the injury? You know why? Because he was trying other ways to save face, and that wasn't working. You go all the way from saying you thought you won the fight to now saying I had an injury, and pretty much that's the reason why I lost the fight. Which one is it, Manny? You thought you won the fight, or you know you lost the fight? Oh, but the double talk gets worse for Manny. Because first he said he was injured 3 weeks before the fight. And now he's using his sparring partners to back up that story. But that story doesn't work. Because now Nevada State Athletic Commission, they're ready, or they're threatening to take action against Manny Pacquiao, either suspending him or fining him for lying on his questionnaire. Now Manny Pacquiao has to change his story again. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's a class action lawsuit that started with 2 people. Now it's jumped up to 5. By the time I upload this video, it'll probably be 8 to 10 people. I mean, after all, it's a class action lawsuit. That means this lawsuit is like a bus for public transportation. Anybody could jump on, right? It's like one of those movies where a guy is in his house. The police, they come, they raid his house. He's trying to sneak out the back door, the side door, windows, but everywhere he goes, the police are already there. So he really has no place to run, no place to escape. So eventually, he just surrenders. And this is what Manny Pacquiao needs to do right now. He needs to surrender. He needs to be humble in defeat. If he would have been humble in defeat, none of this mess would have even existed. But Manny Pacquiao's deceptive behavior, the lies, the excuses, has created a snowball the size of a mountain. And that snowball is only a few feet away, chasing Manny Pacquiao. You know, speaking of the deception, the lies, the excuses, I think all of us can agree with this. When you meet someone and they tell you some big lies, you usually don't trust them anymore, right? You start to wonder, what else did they lie about? That's the situation with Manny Pacquiao. If Manny Pacquiao is willing to lie, go back and forth, changing his story, lying about this, lying about that, this is going to make fans wonder, what else did he lie about? Right? I mean, let's just think of all the things that he was accused of. We know Manny Pacquiao said he didn't want to take the drug test because he was afraid of needles back in 2008. Once again, you make these type of big lies, people will always wonder what else you were lying about. Once again, guys, you have to understand, I have a lot of respect for Manny Pacquiao. But what he's doing right now is disrespectful to our sport. And for extreme biased networks like HBO and ESPN, which, by the way, I had gave them props before, not knowing that I just found out they were damn near worse than HBO. So with HBO and ESPN regurgitating the ignorance that Manny Pacquiao originally spewed, it hurts the sport. You always have some fans talking about the sport is dying. No, the sport is not dying. People like HBO, ESPN, they're trying to kill the sport because the guy they wanted to win didn't win. So you're going to sit over here and you're going to tell the whole world, all these casual fans that just tuned in just for this fight, you're going to turn around and tell them this fight was a big-ass disappointment. So for all you new casual fans that was introduced to the sport by way of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, you don't need to come back and watch boxing anymore because it's always going to be a disappointment when you watch it. This is pretty much what they're saying. They're trying to throw the sport under the bus just to make sure that bus tackles Mayweather in the process. This is no different than the Republicans here in America that have the most deep-seated hate for our president, that they are willing to shut down the entire government to where the whole country suffers just to attack one man, President Barack Obama. And as always, hatred is never well thought out, which is always why they contradict themselves when they talk with hate. Think about this for a second. These are the same people who have been calling Floyd Mayweather boring for the longest, right? Even though we already know if Floyd continues to fight and Manny Pacquiao will continue to fight, twice the amount of people will watch Floyd before they watch Manny Pacquiao. We've already seen this in the pay-per-view numbers. Numbers don't lie. So even though they say that Floyd Mayweather is boring, nobody wants to watch him fight, if that's the case, why were you guys asking for the Mayweather fight for 5 years? It doesn't make sense, does it? If you didn't like the way Floyd Mayweather fought, why were you telling him to fight Manny Pacquiao? See, when Floyd Mayweather wasn't fighting Manny Pacquiao, they tried to use this as an excuse to hate on Floyd and call him a coward. But then once Floyd signs the contract, then they start saying, oh, this fight is going to be boring. It's going to be a boring fight once again. So why were you even clamoring for the fight in the first place then? These fans have never been consistent with their message. Ridiculous. I mean, even when it comes to Golovkin versus Andre Ward, they'll sit over here and say, oh, we don't want to see that fight because Andre Ward is a boring fighter and this and that. Translation, Andre Ward will probably beat him. And we don't want to see Golovkin take a loss right now. That's what they're saying. But they use that excuse, we don't want to see it because he's a boring fighter, this and that. Oh, but you claim you wanted to see Pacquiao versus the boring Floyd Mayweather. And you claim you wanted to see that fight for the last 5 years. Soon as he signs the contract, the fight is going to be boring, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. These fans are not real boxing fans. And that's the reason why they are not taken serious when it comes to a fight of this magnitude. I'm on to the next one.
And fear has dictated my life for a while. If you can find a way to overcome that and make yourself believe that, you know what, if I take this chance, I don't have to be scared. I don't have to run away from fear. What if I embrace it? It's like I'm afraid to lose. I'm afraid to lose that zero. Go ahead and embrace it. It's okay. Face it.
Oscar, if Floyd Mayweather fights Manny Pacquiao, will people still say he's worried about his record?
No. Fighting Manny Pacquiao will just erase erase any doubt that anybody might have about Floyd.